The NFL draft is right around the corner, and the debate for who will end up being drafted with the #1 overall pick is starting to heat up. Much like every year, the debate is between two quarterbacks, this year particularly CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. But hold up, let's backtrack for a second. How did Stroud and Young position themselves to both being a top pick in the NFL draft? But let's start with Bryce Young and his career journey, starting at Cathedral High School in Los Angeles. As a freshman, Young was not handed the reins of the entire offense as he only threw 192 passes that season, but he still racked up 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns as a true freshman in high school, and came back his sophomore season and absolutely took over high school football as he threw for 3,400 yards and 41 touchdowns. But the last 2 years of Bryce Young's high school career was really where the hype began to generate for him as a player. That is when he transferred to Mater Dei High School in California, and if you do not know about Mater Dei High School, it's one of the most prolific high school football programs in the entire nation. They routinely pump out some of the best players in the entire country every single year, and Bryce Young fits that exact mold as a player who became really successful from Mater Dei High School. His junior season, he would continue to take another step up from his sophomore year, throwing for 3,800 yards and 39 touchdowns. But his best year and when he absolutely skyrocketed recruiting ranks was his senior season when he threw for 4,500 yards and 58 touchdowns, winning Los Angeles Times Player of the Year and California Gatorade Player of the Year. Young was given a 5-star rating and was ranked as the best quarterback in the 2020 class, and even was labeled as the 20th best prospect of all time. He was originally committed to USC, but actually changed his mind and decided to play for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, CJ Stroud, on the other hand, wasn't too far from Bryce Young in high school, as he also began his career in California at Rancho Cucamonga High School. It's even well known now that Bryce Young and CJ Stroud became friends at a football camp in middle school, and have kept in touch since then, which I thought was pretty interesting. But Stroud didn't play at a powerhouse like Young, and he also didn't have the immediate production that Young did. Stroud really wouldn't get a chance to start until his junior season when he threw for 2,300 yards and 19 touchdowns, but it was clear that Stroud needed more experience than what he had in his junior campaign. But he came back his senior year and was right up there with Bryce Young in terms of production when he threw for 3,800 yards and 47 touchdowns. So with the monstrous senior campaign, Stroud was given a 4-star rating and was ranked as the 42nd best player in the country, ultimately deciding to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the college careers for both of these players are actually oddly similar. They both didn't play their freshman years. They sat behind top NFL draft picks in Mac Jones and Justin Fields, but when they stepped on the field as sophomores, they instantly became some of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. In 12 games, Stroud completed 72% of his passes for 4,400 yards, 44 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, while Young played in 15 games, throwing for 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. They were both Heisman finalists, but Young ended up winning the award, largely due to him making the national championship game and having a few more games under his belt. But this past year, both quarterbacks had a microscope on them, as heading into the college football season, they were both seen as the top prospects for the 2023 NFL draft, and much like they've done their entire careers, they both didn't disappoint. Stroud followed up his 44 touchdown season from a season ago with 41 touchdowns to only 6 picks this past year, while also making it to his first college football playoff where he played against Georgia and lit them up for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns against what many people viewed as the best defense in the country, and many people refer to that game as the best in CJ Stroud's entire career. Now, Bryce Young's production dipped a bit in 2022, but largely due to the loss of both of his top wide receivers in Jamison Williams and John Mechie, in my opinion. He also suffered a shoulder injury which kept him out of a game and potentially limited him down the stretch of the season, but he still put up 32 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, still having a fantastic season, good enough to guarantee him as a top 3 pick in the draft. But all of that production in college and high school is great, but how about these quarterbacks as prospects, and how will they translate to the NFL? Well, I want to start off with CJ Stroud, and in my opinion, he's the best quarterback in the 2023 draft class. His game thrives on accuracy and anticipation. We saw it all throughout college and also in his combine workouts. He's a very accurate passer, but his arm talent is nothing to laugh at either. He's got a good arm. I wouldn't say it's a Herbert or Josh Allen type of arm, but he's got enough juice to make every throw that he needs to make. His athleticism is okay, but good enough to where he can make some moves in the pocket and escape if needed. And I know there was a criticism that some had of him throughout his college career, as he couldn't escape from the pass rush as good as some would like. At times it appeared he may not be great off script, but I think the college football playoff game against Georgia really opened up a lot of people's eyes to what he's capable of doing. He made a lot of really nice plays in that game by using his legs, keeping the play alive, and then throwing a strike down the field. So I do think that element he can expand more into his game, but he definitely has the ability. We've seen him do it on multiple occasions, and most notably against the best defense in all of college football. And lastly, to tie everything in together, he has the prototypical size. He's 6'3", 215 pounds, so you know he can hold up at the next level. Ultimately, when I look at CJ Stroud, do I see him ever being a top 5 elite quarterback in the NFL? I personally don't see that. I think he can be around a top 10, top 12 type of of quarterback. A popular comparison I've seen for him is a more mobile Jared Goff, and I can definitely see that. Good size, good arm, pretty good accuracy, but he's not going to blow you off the charts with all his measurables. He's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. So that's really what I see out of CJ Stroud, but I think that's a really nice option that you can have at quarterback. I think he can step in right away and still be a very nice option. But now moving over to Bryce Young, his evaluation to me is extremely difficult. We've seen him now at 2 levels, high school football and now college, playing for 2 of the top programs in the entire country on both levels. Absolutely destroys competition, put up crazy numbers, win the Heisman, win Player of the Year in high school. He's been the best quarterback and he's achieved so much at both levels of football that he's played at. Why can't he do that at the NFL? Similar to Stroud, Young has a good arm, not a great arm, not an elite arm, but good enough to make everything that he needs to in the NFL. He's also an accurate passer, but where I think he has a leg up compared to Stroud is his off-script playmaking ability. That was a huge part of Bryce Young's game throughout his Alabama career. If you watch his highlights, most of his best plays is him extending a play for 5-10 seconds and then throwing a bomb down the field for a touchdown. He did it over and over and over again at Alabama, and that's why I think so many people are intrigued with Bryce Young and his potential at the next level. That's kind of the new age of the NFL quarterback where they can just make plays out of nothing. We see with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, some of the best quarterbacks in the entire league. That's a huge part of their game, and that's what Bryce Young is so good at doing. So I can definitely see the vision that people have of Bryce Young becoming a really nice quarterback in the NFL. But the 2 biggest criticisms for Young that I have is his size and also his ability to throw over the middle of the field. That's really the concerns that most people have about Young and why he's not the consensus #1 quarterback in this draft. He measured in at 5'10" and 1/8 of an inch and just barely over 200 pounds. Even when you just look at Bryce Young, he's a very skinny player, so that is a very light 204 pounds. And I have real concerns about him being able to stay upright in the NFL. People love to point the finger at Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson as some smaller quarterbacks that have been successful in the NFL. But my counter argument to that would be Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are also a lot more built than Bryce. And Kyler also hasn't been super durable since entering the league, and he's more towards Bryce's size than Russell Wilson is. He's gotten hurt every year. Now he just tore his ACL. So I don't think either of those guys truly represent Bryce's size. We've never seen anybody as short or skinny as Bryce as a quarterback. And then to combine with the size is the ability to throw the ball over the middle of the field. And I believe Bryce threw over the middle in college more than Kyler or Russ did, but there were still many times where Bryce would miss someone in the middle of the field or be late to a read because he has a hard time seeing. I think that'll continue to be an issue in the NFL. It only makes sense that it would. I don't think it's a massive issue because Kyler and Russ also have offenses where they don't have to throw over the middle of the field a ton, but it does mean that teams will have to build a specific offense for Young, and that's okay. As I just mentioned, most quarterbacks in the NFL need an offense tailored to them, but those couple of concerns is what separates Bryce Young and Stroud for me and why I give a slight nod to Stroud when we talk about long-term success in the NFL. But all in all, I think both are really nice players, and I'm excited to see how their career turns out in the NFL, and I'm pretty confident in where each guy will end up this April. I do indeed believe CJ Stroud will be headed to the Carolina Panthers. I know there's been some recent rumors that say Bryce Young may be the #1 overall pick or maybe Anthony Richardson, but I'm fairly confident in everything that I've seen and heard that CJ Stroud will be going #1 to the Panthers. But how the Panthers handle Stroud I think will be really interesting. They did sign a veteran quarterback in Andy Dalton this offseason. They're going to start Andy Dalton for maybe half the season and then give the reins over to CJ Stroud towards the end of the year? Or are they going to start CJ Stroud right away and just kind of have Andy Dalton on the sideline helping him out as a veteran? I think that's a really interesting situation, and I also think the supporting cast for Stroud is also pretty good as well. It sucks that the Panthers had to get rid of DJ Moore in the trade up with the Bears, but they made sure to go out and get some pieces this offseason, signing Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and Hayden Hurst. And I think their offense is pretty underrated as well, with Ikem Ekwonu at left tackle, who they drafted this past year, Taylor Moden at right tackle, he's a very solid option there, and then Bradley Bozeman at center, he's pretty solid as well. So maybe just get some more depth at the interior of that offensive line, but I think overall they have a pretty nice collection of players for a rookie to come into and play with. And then you combine that with Frank Wright and the stat that he's built. He's one of the most respected offensive minds in the NFL. So I think that's a good situation for CJ Stroud to come in, develop, and reach his full potential. And that means Bryce Young is headed to the Houston Texans, and personally that's what I've seen coming this entire time. I thought even if the Texans got the #1 overall pick, that's who they were going to pick. So now with Stroud going #1 overall, they don't have to stress about not getting the #1 overall pick. They still get their guy at the #2 spot. And similar to the Panthers, I actually think that the Texans situation for a rookie quarterback is not too bad as well. I know that might be a little bit of a cold take, but I do think the Texans have some nice pieces, especially on their offensive line. They may have the best duo of tackles in the entire NFL in Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard. They just traded for Shaq Mason from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the best guards in football. And they also have their #15 overall pick from this past year in Kenyon Green on that offensive line. And I know he had an up and down rookie season, but maybe he can develop and take a step towards development in year #2. And as I talked for a while with Bryce Young, his size and his durability to hold up in the NFL was a huge concern for me. So the fact that the Texans may have one of the best offensive lines in football is a huge factor in ensuring that he stays upright long term for the team. I'm also a big fan of Dameon Pierce. He's a really nice option at running back. They also signed Devin Singletary in free agency, so they have a decent 1-2 punch at the running back position as well. They also went out and got Dalton Schultz from the Dallas Cowboys, so they have a really nice receiving tight end now as well. I think they do need some help in the wide receiver room. They have Robert Woods, Nico Collins, and Noah Brown right now as their starting 3 wide receivers, but they also drafted John Mechie III in the 2022 draft, who Bryce Young played with at Alabama, had great chemistry with, and he should be healthy and coming back from cancer, which held him out of his entire rookie season. So that'll be a really cool story if John Mechie and Bryce Young are able to team up again and continue to put up great numbers in the NFL. And the Texans also have a new head coach in DeMeco Ryans, and I think he's going to bring in a nice culture, and that also means that the offense that Bryce Young will be running is a West Coast Shanahan type of offense, which I think fits him well. So overall, I think both of these teams are set up nicely to handle both of these rookie quarterbacks, and now the only thing left to do is sit back and watch how it all plays out. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it. But let me know what you think of CJ Stroud. Let me know what you think of Bryce Young and who you believe is the best quarterback in the 2023 NFL draft class. And also let me know who you think the Panthers are going to pick #1 overall. Do you think it's going to be Stroud? Do you think they're going to shock everybody and go with Bryce Young? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But anyway, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one.